Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. Well, it is indeed the Flagstick Podcast, and I am indeed Jeff Botter, publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine, flagstick.com, and the Flagstick Podcast is brought to you this week by Ping Golf Canada. If you're looking to improve your game, then you really need to check out the entire family of G425 drivers, fairway woods, irons, and hybrids at ca.ping.com. With me, as always, and back from the Eastern journey, preceding the Western journey. It's like the man is on tour right now. Scott McLeod, good to have you back. Good to be back doing a podcast.
Yeah, thanks, bud. It was a good trip east. Enjoyed that little tour around New Brunswick for some travel content coming up. And as you mentioned, heading out to British Columbia next week. So, yeah, a little bit of travel happening these days, but that's a good thing.
It is. You had to. Now, let's just before we get into the podcast and you know all the great things that the podcast is going to have going on this week, but let's just kind of summarize the trip to New Brunswick as best you can, because we are going to get into the whole New Brunswick travel trip in more detail in an upcoming podcast, not this one, but
yeah, definitely.
You just got back. We took a week off the podcast. People want to know what the heck is going on. Where were we? I mean, they missed their podcast. Episode 21 was delayed. Why?
Well, I made my way down to New Brunswick, as you mentioned, with a couple of fellow golf writers, Tim Baines, who you know well, Jeff Brook as well.
Outstanding golfer.
Great time down there.
Guy.
Yeah, Adam Chamberlain, who's the director of golf down at Gowan Bray, had reached out to us a couple of years ago now to talk about a media trip and going to New Brunswick, just to showcase some of the golf courses down there. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, that got delayed, and we ended up, making it happen. So headed down, played Gowan Bray, which I hadn't played before, which was pretty excited to get there. Dropped in, saw our friend Chris Lermoth at Miramichi, was able to see him there. And then zipped across the province, a little 4.5 hour drive down to St. Andrews, played down in Algonquin, over to Fredericton for West Hills, a Huxham design there, took in the Harvest Festival, the music festival. So my ears were ringing for a little bit, and then finished up with Fox Creek, where the manager there, Eric Sargent, actually grew up in Canada, believe it or not. And it was a good trip, a quick trip, obviously. And we'll get into more details in a future episode. But that's where I was. That's where I was away last week, and then next week headed out to Whistler to check out some new products for Adidas Golf Canada.
So there you go. So those that were wondering, now you know. Do we find this a reasonable excuse to not do a podcast? Yes, we do. We do, because there just isn't any time.
It's hard. Yeah, for sure.
But we'll have more details on that in an upcoming episode of the podcast, because it's going to be there'll be some interesting stories and some interesting discussions, I'm sure, about all the golf
and some guests, maybe some guests as well. So.
That would be nice. Yes, yes. Speaking of guests, we don't have one on this episode of the podcast, but we were talking about this, and as we start to progress into the off-season months of golf, especially around here, the podcast is going to begin to evolve a little bit as well, because we're not going to have the tournaments to wrap up, the events to wrap up, because, maybe unless there's a snow event, or an ice event, we might jump on that. So we're going to try to bring on more guests throughout the off-season into the podcast, to get a little bit more perspective from some people, some interviews and some conversations, put a third box on the YouTube window here and a third voice on the audio would be kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, well, they've got some issues as well. I mean, it's hard to get guests sometimes during the summertime because they're quite busy.
Yeah.
So we don't want to obviously put any extra pressure on their schedule, but certainly we have some people that have wanted to come on the podcast and people that we want to bring on the podcast for our audience. So look forward to doing that in the next coming months.
Okay. So now as we dive into this podcast, we're also getting into winding down the season. So on the front nine, we're going to be talking about some events that have wrapped up, and there's quite a few of them. So bear with us through that. We'll push through them and get you some details. On the also on the back nine, Jake Haime's back again this week with another tip. This one on is a driver tip, and we can never get a shortage of driver tips. So I'm curious to see what Jake's got in store for us this week. We're also going to talk President's Cup. It would be silly of us not to. The President's Cup is this week. In fact, as we were recording this podcast, the President's Cup is set to begin this afternoon. And we're going to, we're not going to break it down. We're not going to be your typical Golf Channel talking heads here, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to get a look at, who's participating, who's not participating, maybe a little bit of why, maybe not any why.
And just some thoughts on it overall, for sure.
Exactly. And then in the back, and we're also going to have a little product watch feature something different. As is kind of a trend lately with the podcast, is to do something
I guess different is the new normal.
Yeah, I guess so. It's product watch, not equipment watch. Let's remember that.
Correct.
It's not golf equipment in your bag watch. It's product watch. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about this product. No, it's not some putting cup that you can use while you're sitting on the toilet seat. Okay, so we're going to do all that this week on the podcast. It's going to be an awesome show, but let's get things kicked off with the front nine, brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Looking for fun golf at a great rate. Save 15% when you prepay. Visit metcalfgolf.com to book. Also, take a look at Metcalf's website for fall promos and deals, because it is fall golf season. And Metcalf does tend to have some really nice foliage this time of year. And it's one of those golf courses that's kind of cool, even though not a lot of elevation out there. They do have a lot of trees, which is indicative by the leaf in their logo.
Yeah, exactly. I think they have an equipment sale on right now in their pro shop. So people might want to check that out too.
There you go.
So, all right. Paying attention.
Scott.
Yes.
Scott, let's dive in. And we're going to dive in by shamelessly self-promoting our own event. Look, this was a big deal because this was 2 years in the making. This took 2 years for us to, with all the COVID stuff and just logistics of trying to get this thing happening. We finally managed to get the Flagstick Two-Ball Championship done. And, it was a new event. It was a different format. It was a very unique format. I'm sure that there's not too many people that have played that specific kind of format. Lots of people have played Stableford. Lots of people have played combined score team stuff. But this was kind of a combination of both. It was combined team score, Stableford scoring system, modified Stableford scoring system, designed specifically to encourage, pushing the point. Let's go deep. We had the perfect golf course for this type of event at the Brockville Country Club, who was graciously our host, stayed with us through the last 2 years of getting this thing off, and we did it, and it was awesome. It really was awesome. Fun. Now, it was a runaway victory, which we will find out in the in the overall, but I don't see that in the future. I don't see that happening. I see this was the first year for the event. There was a little bit more. And the two guys that won, which we'll talk about, very familiar with the golf course, which certainly helps when you're playing well, and you're playing well on a golf course that like the back of your hand. Those two things go hand in hand, and the points started accumulating pretty rapidly.
I mean, there's you got to remember too, it's a learning curve as far as playing this event as well. I mean, that was a discussion. We'll talk about the winners in a little bit, but in a discussion with them and how they went about playing it. A lot of players sort of took this on and almost thought it was like a scramble or something. But you're playing your own ball, and you're allowed to take certain risks to basically try and score. But some people maybe took too big of risks and end up losing some points. So I think there's a learning curve here too, because the format is new and is something different. And I heard that from a number of teams and a number of players that said, hey, you know what, next year, I'm going to play this a little bit differently. As you said, the golf course was perfect for it. It really came down to, the players dictating the result, not the golf course, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want. But certainly for them learning how to play this format and realizing that, it's not a scramble, it's not a better ball, it is a combined stable for, there's just a different way to play it to maximize your scoring.
Well, yeah, and what we ended up finding out with the results was, while there was a bit of a runaway in the Division One,
Right.
the Division Two there was not a runaway. I mean, this thing was
last
right
putt
down to the final putt on the,
Yeah.
and it was what's great about this event is that one of the teams that had a chance to win was Hayden Underhill and his father.
Yeah.
And Hayden is a +2 handicap,
Right.
collegiate player, outstanding golfer. His dad is an 11, a decent golfer. Combine them together, and they almost won their division.
Sure. An A and a C played in B, and we saw how it kind of neutralized.
And that is exactly what we were going for with this event. And that's not always going to work out that way, that it's so close throughout the whole division, but this is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want this to be your typical scramble or best ball event where you're trying to get, your partner has to be a good golfer as well for you to have a shot at winning, whether it's your division or the overall. You can have an enjoyable, competitive weekend of golf with somebody who might not be as good a golfer as you are, and you're both going to be competitive as a team. And that's what we were going for. And that's exactly what we got.
Yeah.
So, we want to, we're going to talk about the results, but thank you very much to Brockville Country Club for hosting. The meal on Saturday night was outstanding. It was chicken and ribs. It was delicious.
Yeah. Great feedback from everybody on that.
And they've only, and Jason Walmark, the GM, has basically said, they want to up the ante again next year. We know the field is going to be bigger and stronger next year because we got one under a belt and people are already talking about it. And that's exactly what you go for, in this type of thing. Is it was new, it was unique, it was different. How's it going to go over? What's the feedback going to be like? Let's get this thing happening. We'll worry about how many people are participating in year 2 and 3 and 4. The Flagstick Open started the same way, small, and grew and grew and grew. And now there's 100 people on a waiting list to get into it. And if I open registration for the Flagstick Open tomorrow, it would be sold out by the end of the week. So I'm expecting this is going to be, a similar thing. It's just going to keep growing. We got great support and sponsorship. We got great support in hosting, and we'll have great support from the players as well, especially ones coming from far away. We had Owen Rigg and his partner Louis they came from Northern Ontario again.
We had teams from we had players from Windsor, Timmins, coming in from all over, and that's really good to see, and I think that's a testament as well to the quality of the events that we've run in the past as far as the Flagstick Open and the players wanting to come. So people put that on your calendar. Early September next year, we'll be back with the Flagstick Two-Ball Championship.
Exactly. Okay, Scott, why don't you pop out the results and then we'll move on to our next topic.
All right. Well, dominating, obviously, as we mentioned, Adam Folko, who's a 7-time club champion at Brockville Country Club, and Phil Patterson, obviously, familiar to a lot of people in the Ottawa Valley as a champion golfer as well, and played Brockville many, many times. These guys were just on their game. I think they were 68 and 70 on their own golf balls the very first day, but they racked up 101 points for the weekend. They actually won the title by 43 points. Unbelievable. Great play. They didn't lose a lot of points, which is what we mentioned before. They played very smartly. They played, for the worst case, they were going to make a bogey. They weren't going to make a double, and they didn't make a double all week, which is obviously the area where you get into losing points. And they prevailed over Jeremy Boyd, Mike O'Reilly, who were from the club. They ended up winning the Division 1 title. And Division 2, that was where the close battle was, as you mentioned. Ken and Hayden Underhill just sort of unfortunately had a bad last hole, and then had to kind of wait and see what was going to happen. And then Hugh Hammond and Alistair Hart. Alistair Hart made a clutch birdie on 17. The boys made a couple of nice pars on 18 to get the Division 2 win under their belt. And then in Division 3, Matt Ward and Shane Melcher, they combined for 26 points and won by 15. They really played very solidly as well. Again, avoiding big mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a bogey, don't make a double. Bogey, you know what? You're gonna be 0 points, but double, that's when you start losing points. So
well, that was the format, right? We made it perfectly clear the way we set up the point structure for the event that if you kept the double off your card, you wouldn't lose anything.
Exactly.
And if you could just squeeze out pars and bogeys for a majority of your round, maybe get the odd birdie, you'd accumulate points because it was 1 point for a par, as opposed to a normal Stableford par is 0.
Right. Exactly.
You usually lose one shot for a bogey, and you usually lose 2 or 3 for a double. So we modified the scoring. We altered the course setup so that it was set up the same for every single division. So if this was your typical ABC flight kind of tournament, the C flighters, the D flighters would play a different golf course because it'd be a different length. Brockville allowed us the opportunity to set this golf course up our own way, so that all 3 divisions played the same tees, which meant that all 3 divisions were eligible for the overall title. Whether that made logistical sense or not, that the C could beat an A, or a C could, Division 3 could win and Division 1 would finish second or third, we don't know. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we made it so that it was possible.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay.
Good stuff.
Less on that, more on Curtis Barkley.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, Curtis is he's an amazing human being, for one thing.
Yeah,
the guy is an awesome guy, and his golf speaks for itself, and he has successfully repeated as the champion of the Canadian All Abilities. He's the Canadian All Abilities champion. That he won that title. He repeated as champion up at the Essex Golf and Country Club.
Yeah, he did. Had a great first round. I believe he was 67 in the first round. Followed up, I believe, 71. Again, a repeat championship for him there. One of the top 10 ranked players in the world in the EDGA as far as golfers with a disability, as they call it. But I like the Canadian All Abilities Championship. I like that name better. Got his name on another trophy. So congratulations, Curtis. Looking forward to seeing more out of him, and good to see, especially on a golf course like Essex as well. Storied golf course down in the Windsor area, not an easy golf course. So for him to win the title again and to do it the way he did, that's props to him. And Natasha Stasiuk, I should mention, who's not from Eastern Ontario, but is from Ontario. She won the women's title, so congratulations to her as well.
Awesome. No, is she a repeat?
She is a repeat winner there as well. So
nice. Very good. Golf Canada's Next Gen Series. Let's talk about that for a second, because obviously we have some local content in that and some local success in that.
Yeah, it was actually happened down in Hampton, New Brunswick, while I was down east. So it was good because I was going back and forth with some of the people over there. I knew what weather they were dealing with. They were dealing with some high winds and things over there. We had a couple of our favorite rules officials, Jerry Bauer and Gail Faulkner, were over there helping out with that championship. And Carly Mayer from Lansdowne actually won the Bantam girls title. She finished third, I believe, overall. And then Isaiah Ibbett, who plays out of the Camelot Golf Club from Orleans, finished third overall in the boys. So that's one of 8 Next Gen Championships that's happening across the country now. That's a great series. They have one event left to play. It's a good series in the fact that it gets some of the younger golfers out playing national level events against a lot of their peers. It's all now part of the system that's going to help identify good young quality golfers younger, so that they can be seen and get exposure to the game, exposure to top coaches and so forth. But great success there by Carly and Isaiah.
Nice. Okay. The Flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Tour, I think, has finally wrapped it up
yesterday.
And the fall championships took place, and great to see this, because I
this is a cool finish.
This is awesome. Gord Percy won the main division.
And he's a senior.
And he's a senior in a 2-hole playoff with James Spirnick. Both of them shot 68 in regulation. I mean, Gord, we know, is a phenomenal golfer. Gord doesn't play a ton of golf. So when you're able to kind of just, reach in and grab the sticks, head out to a golf course that, I mean, yes, Gord's quite familiar with
he's the GM and head pro there. So,
I mean, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get up and go to work every day and your membership's pretty freaking happy with you right now, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was good to see that, especially, when you're on your home course. That's kind of nice to see. And Gord posted his 68 early and then had to kind of wait and see what was going to happen. James had it to 3 under heading into 18, the par 3 there, managed the par. 2-hole playoff, like I said, and Gord picked up the win. And Gord, if people are not familiar, he's the president also of the PGA of Canada. So he's doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of different things. I'm not sure if he is at the President's Cup. He might be actually headed down there or there already. I know he's had a heavy travel schedule this year and not playing a lot. So that was good to see for sure. And, especially in the main division as well.
Yeah, and of course, Daryl Buchanan.
Bucky
pulls out a senior division victory. Gotta like that. Congrats, Bucky.
Yeah, for sure. Good win there. Not a deep field there, and I think he was 4 over. I think to win that. I know the golf course was in great shape, despite the fact there's a lot of rain there of late. But good comments from the players as well, and that wraps up the the singles events, and then we have, of course, the Ping Challenge Cup.
Challenge.
To look forward to on October 3rd, 4th.
Yes, it's going to be fun
at Highlands. It's now going to have a 2-day format, and the captains from the head pros versus the captain of the assistant pros, and we'll see how the battle goes. What are we at now, anyways? I don't know off the top of my head.
I know we've won a lot.
Oh yeah,
the trophy's right over there in my office. I
think that trophy sat in my office for a couple of years.
yeah. Well, it was a sympathy give. I let you hold on to it.
Wow.
While, I didn't have enough space.
We might have to do a live podcast or something.
That would be, what we should, because they're using Golf Genius to do the scoring, and we usually just kind of ride around in the cart.
Drink coffee.
So
once we do the pairings, although we'll have something different this year with the overnight. Yeah, so we'll be able to do some pairings overnight and make some adjustments.
Oh, we could do the singles pairing
pairing
draw. Overnight. Now we're talking. Talking.
I smell a fun podcast.
I do. Now, speaking of team events, the Gordon Cup,
yes,
was on the same weekend as the Flagstick Two-Ball, and how fitting is this? The Pembroke Golf Club is celebrating its 100th anniversary. Congratulations, Dan Shields. And they host the Gordon Cup. And they win the Gordon Cup. Now, I mean, you script it. You can't script it better than that. I'm sorry for the other clubs that didn't win, but when you're scripting a 100th anniversary hosting of a major, huge Team Valley event, and the host team wins, that's how it's supposed to happen.
This is a Upper Ottawa Valley event for people who are not familiar, but it's been happening for over 90 years. One of the longest running team competitions in Canada. There's several others that are maybe a little bit older. Quinny Cup, I think, started in 1921, but huge event up there. It is a point of pride within all the clubs that participate. And I believe Pembroke as well set a record score as well. I know in day one, they had no scores outside the 70s, which is pretty darn impressive for the team. So congratulations to them, not only for, but winning it, but also setting record scoring in an event that's super historic. So as you said, that's good for Shieldsy and the gang up there.
Big time.
He's a great guy. Everybody knows him as a great host. And I'm sure there were maybe some beverages enjoyed up there, and everybody probably had a
Pembroke pate.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been insane.
Yeah, exactly. So, congratulations to the team from Pembroke and for everyone who qualified for their teams from the other clubs as well.
It's not easy to do.
No, not one bit.
Not one bit. Okay. OVGA Junior OVGA Cup.
Yeah.
Also on the same weekend as the
It was
two-ball.
a busy weekend.
Yeah, it was indeed. That all got wrapped up. So I think the OVGA is kind of wrapped up their
just
season.
the tournament of champions left to go, and that's I believe next week. So yeah, but for the juniors, that's sort of the wrap up for them as far as individual head-to-head competition.
Now I'm just going to rather than do a whole winner. All the results of this are on flagstick.com, but congratulations to all of the girls and boys in all of the categories for the season, because it's more than just one event. The OVGA for a great season as well. But to check out all the results and all the names of the winners of each of the divisions, because there's quite a few, just head over to flagstick.com and you'll see it there.
Yeah, and I think what we'll do some point here too, I know I've talked to Jim Davidson, who's in charge of the OVGA junior development. I've talked to him about him popping on the podcast and talking about their season as well. Some of their plans of what they're doing with the structure of the development program, and maybe get some insight from him. And we look forward to that, and he's agreed to it. So we'll schedule that for sometime soon.
Jimmy's a good interview.
He is a good interview, that's for sure. So he said he was going to have a powwow last night with Derek McDonald, who's the regional coach, and Serge LaFontaine, who from Royal Ottawa, who helps out, whose daughter, actually I didn't have it in the notes, but his daughter, Ashley, just won her first NCAA tournament in just her second start at Elon University, went 75, 68, 68 for that victory. So congratulations to her as well. And obviously she's been a strong player in the OVGA and GAO and Golf Ontario and Golf Canada for quite some time now.
Do people still have powwows?
I guess so, yeah. And she's a member of Royal Ottawa. We should mention that. So.
Okay. Well, I guess what we're having is a powwow right now, right?
Sure. Exactly.
Okay. One last thing in the news front, then we got to take a break.
Yeah.
The season-long competition on the East Coast Pro Tour wrapped up. Long Sue's Ty Salone.
It's not that hard.
It's just started to say Salone. 9 under total. Earned.
And that was only. Yeah, that was only for 27 holes. They got washed out, so they ended up only playing 27 holes. But he won their Players Championship. That was his second event winning of the year, and he actually needed that to surpass Sebastian Zermatt to win the season-long competition, which is their Golf In Cup, and that also earned him expenses to DP World Tour qualifying for a stage. I think he's going to go to Corn Ferry Tour qualifying instead.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I believe he made mention of that. I just had a quick message back and forth with him on Instagram. But, a great season by him for his first pro season to get 2 wins.
Definitely.
Starting out on the East Coast Pro Tour. And Dunrobin's Jake Bryson, or Stittsville, I guess now. Jake Bryson finished second. He's part of the 3-way tie for second there as well. So a couple of good young up-and-coming players. Ty played at Eastern Michigan and Jake played at Utah Valley State, and both from Eastern Ontario. So great. Good to see, and continued success to both of them.
Cool. All right. Great front 9. Totally under par from quality, over par. Never mind. That's a dumb analogy. What the heck kind of stupid analogy was that? I was trying to do like an under par, but then it makes it sound like it was a terrible front 9, when really it was a good front 9 because we were under par. Golf analogies and podcasts don't always work, people. Okay. Yeah, exactly. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into that lesson tee with Jake Haime, and we're going to talk some President's Cup. So hang with us, and we'll be right back.
At Ping, we're an engineering company. Success is measured in the lab and on your scorecard. We focus on results, your results. In the G425 Max driver, that means more time in the fairway, less time in the rough. It means longer drives, shorter approach shots, and fewer putts. The new G425 drivers, taking MOI to the max. Get fit today.
Visit ca.ping.com to learn more about G425.
And we are back here on the Flagstick podcast with myself, Jeff Botter, and Scott McLeod after a 1-week hiatus. And we want to jump right out to the lesson tee and hear what our good buddy Jake Haime has to say about improving your driving of the golf ball. So without further ado, let's head to the lesson tee with Jake. And the lesson tee is, as always, brought to you by the Kevin Haime Golf School. If you're looking to improve your game, improve your putting, improve your driving, looking for a fitting, a club fitting, then head on over to kevinhaime.com. Check that out. And remember that better golf is a lot more fun. All right, off to the lesson tee we go. Jake, take it away.
All right, golfers, Jake Haime here for another quick tip. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite simple drills to help work on your path and swing direction. Many of us, whether it's because we get stuck on our back foot or we come over the top in our downswings, wind up swinging too down and in on the golf ball, which for a right-handed golfer means I'm swinging down and to the left. That's the major cause of a lot of our slices. It makes it very difficult to compress my driver properly. One really simple thing I can do to help is take a water bottle and I put it just inside my target line and a little farther forward towards my target to encourage me to swing more up through the golf ball and out to my actual target, which to me will feel like a swing out to the right. If I can do that properly, I can bump the ball more to my actual target, compress my drives better, and help me eliminate my slice.
All right, well, driving tips, there's lots of them, and that one is once again a really good one and pretty self-explanatory. So with everything that we have to get to on the podcast, we're not going to dive in too much into detail and dissect Jake's tip, because I think that one you can probably figure out on your own. So we're going to leave that alone, and we're gonna dive into our back nine, because we want to get to President's Cup talk. So the back nine is brought to you by Golf Sim Gurus, and now is the perfect time. If you're thinking about getting a golf simulator installed in your home, in your garage, on your roof, whatever it is that you want to do, the guys at Golf Sim Gurus are there for you. Custom made golf simulator setups to your specs, to your budget. Visit golfsimgurus.ca for more information. And now get to it. Because winter's coming.
Yeah, I see Andy and the Golf Sim Gurus guys.
Yes,
obviously have their sister company, Celtic Golf
Centers. Yeah.
So I saw they're now revealing that they're working on that. We've obviously known that's happening for quite some time, south of Ottawa. But yeah, that'll be interesting to follow and see how that goes. I know you're doing some work for them.
I am. Did a logo design for them, doing some marketing stuff for them right now. Actually, just working with the local media there and getting some advertising started with respect to the opening, which is coming. I believe we're talking about October the 3rd. So, cool. I just saw a text flash on my phone there from Andy, so I guess I'm going to be busy this afternoon. But yeah, it's an awesome setup they got in Kempville. 5 simulators.
Yeah.
6.
Is it not 6?
No, it was 6, but he reduced it to 5 to make the space bigger.
All right. Okay.
So he was going to get 6 in there, and he thought, no, yes, 6 would be better, dollars and cents, all that, but 5 made for more space. Nice. And that's what he was going for. So 5 simulators, Sam Putt Lab, a bar in there, lots of TVs.
200 courses now. I know I just downloaded 6 more yesterday for TrackMan. So it's crazy.
It is insane what they're doing. And our good buddy Watsy is the project manager. He's going crazy, putting up walls, drywall, and oh my god, it's awesome. I had a chance to go look at it last week because I wanted to take a look. So I drove to Kempville and had a little tour right on the main street in Kempville too, like not the main highway street, like in main Kempville, like actual Kempville. Cool. Awesome. It's gonna be good.
Anyway, looking forward to seeing that.
Yes, it will be wonderful. We'll probably have some events out there, and hint, Andy has talked about potentially jumping in as a major sponsor of the Two-Ball next year as well. So
cool. Yeah, that would be great if we had some events out there. That could be fun. So stay tuned, dear listener, dear watcher. our
Who
golf
knows what
community.
flagstick.com is going to do next. We're unpredictable.
All right.
I don't even know what we're going to do. All right. President's Cup.
Yeah.
Exciting. I like the President's Cup.
Okay.
I like team events.
So let's get to that. That's
Okay.
our first question to address. Excited about it? Not excited about it? Will you be watching? Not watching? Tell me and tell me why. I
am going to watch because, number one, I'm a golf guy. First and foremost, I hope so. I love golf. I love team events like this. I love match play, so I love it even more. I love the golf course. Frankly, so that's why I'm going to watch. So that's the answer to your question. That is, yes, I'm going to watch, and that is why I'm going to watch, because of all those things. Okay. The President's Cup is not, if there was something else going on this weekend that wasn't golf related that was really of interest to me, I don't think that I would go out of my way crazy to make sure that I was parked in front of the TV to watch it live. I think I'd be okay PVRing it and watching it later on at night when I have more time.
I don't know if everybody watches it from sun up to sundown. I mean,
I do if it's the Ryder Cup. Like,
do you really?
Yeah, if it's the Ryder Cup, unless there's a reason why I can't. The Ryder Cup to me is like a major. Like, I mean, I watch majors.
I get that, but we also have some Canadian involvement here. Does that not play a role?
It plays a bit of a role in it, but I mean,
we actually have a side here.
It's golf first, yeah, but I'm on the international side anyway, whether there were Canadians playing or not. I mean, I'm cheering for the international squads because I like a lot of those guys, but. The fact that there's Canadians in it, yes, I mean it makes a bit of a difference to me, but at the end of the day, for me, it's golf, and I'm more tuned into it because of the fact that there's two Canadians in it. But I'm still more Ryder Cup than President's Cup. I still feel like the President's Cup, even though there's Canadians in it, I still feel like the President's Cup is the PGA Tour's way of saying we want an event too, because they can't have the PGA, the Ryder Cup, because that's the PGA of America.
Correct.
It doesn't have it's built history, but it doesn't have. Plus, I mean, what the international team has won two, one and tied. Yeah. I mean, back when the Ryder Cup first was born, and it was the GB and I, as opposed to the European team, the American team was winning everything then too. Yeah, so they changed things up a little bit to make it more competitive. And now the Ryder Cup is like, I hate you. The President's Cup, I don't get President's Cup. I don't get, I hate you. I get, hey buddy, how's it going? Let's have a party. I mean, to me, it seems like more of an competitive exhibition event, which is fine.
They're both exhibitions. Doesn't matter what you think.
But the Ryder Cup, they just feel like the Ryder Cup it right now, and maybe that'll change down the road with the President's Cup if they make some changes, which I know they're talking about. But I just don't get the same sort of. I mean, golf is supposed to be fun and friendly and everything, but I mean, let's face it. When the Ryder Cup, those guys, not that the international team does not want to beat the Americans, but it's not as palpable. As when with the European team and the Americans, it's almost like you're my sworn enemy, and I want to drop nails on your forehead. Like and maybe that's just my opinion and my perception of it, but that's how I feel when I watch it.
Yeah, I think the Ryder Cup, obviously, the history makes the difference. I mean, you're talking about an event that started in 1994 versus something that started in the 1930s. So there's time there for that rivalry, I guess, to exist. But we should take into account here that when we're talking about, international, we have a chance now to showcase players from around the world where Ryder Cup is restricted and only has USA and then GB&I in Europe. So we don't really have the same scope, and obviously golf is an international game now. So I'm not saying I put more value on the President's Cup than the Ryder Cup. Certainly, I would say there's certainly more hype for the Ryder Cup, and that hype usually comes and emanates from the US media more than anything. But it emanates as well from the players. That said, you know what? Am I going to be in front of my TV nonstop? No, I don't think so. But based on we're just at the start of the wraparound PGA Tour season. There's qualifying schools and stuff going on. I mean, the French Open this week and the DP World Tour, it's the best option right now as far as watching golf, probably the most exciting for golf. And as you said, with Corey Connors, with Taylor Pendrith being on there, Mike Ware's back as a captain's assistant. Obviously he has a long history with the President's Cup. That makes it more compelling to watch and see how those players do. It's also over 4 days, which is I kind of like as well. Ryder Cup 3 days, different format. I think we get to see more players here. We get to see them play more just because there's more points involved. I think it'll be interesting, and I think people, if they haven't seen Quail Hollow, I mean, they should have seen Quail Hollow if they watched the Wells Fargo's Championship. I was there in 2017 for the PGA Championship and got to watch it then. They've changed up the routing of the golf course, which actually makes it quite exciting.
I love this idea.
It is a really good idea as far as the change in the routing, because it just brings in the holes that will provide a little bit more drama later. And what it means though is that there's a really good chance from a setup standpoint to create some extra excitement.
Well, a lot of the matches will not go to 18.
Oh, of course not. There's not even a big grandstand.
So having those finishing holes at the point in the match, in the round where they expect most of the matches to finish, that's a massive idea. I mean, I love that idea of doing that, because those are the holes at Quail Hollow, especially there's a drivable par 4 in there, the 18th, like that stretch of 16, 17, 18 is crazy tough.
I'd be very interested actually to see. I mean, I haven't had that discussion with Ryan Hart, who's the tournament director for the 2024 President's Cup at Royal Montreal. And, I saw him at the CP Women's Open, but I'd be very interested. And not that Royal Montreal, is dull, especially coming down the stretch, but I'd be very interested to see if they're considering any alterations there. Obviously they have a drivable par 4 that's at kind of at 14 there. Water comes into play 16 or 15, 16, 17, 18. They probably don't need it, but it would be interesting to see if they're considering any alterations there. But I think the biggest thing here is match play. I love match play. I really do. And when we look at the odds and what we're expecting here, everybody expects the US to dominate here. Obviously they have throughout the history of the event. The smart guys at Data Golf, the Corsheen brothers, who many people will be familiar, and coming from the Ottawa area, have gone on to create a website called Data Golf that does a lot of analysis. But they're giving actually the internationals about a 20% chance to win. And last I checked, 20% chance is better than nothing. That's for sure. And these are great players. These are still some fantastic players. So they've got the skills to make it happen. And just because a player looks great on paper, anything can happen in match play.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, statistics are great and everything, and that's awesome. And I'm sure that they factor match play into their data, and they factor the individual players, as far as their statistics, as far as driving distance and accuracy and
strokes gain. They've got everything.
But at the same time, when you're talking about match play, let's be honest. I mean, I look at the names on the international team. And I see Hideki Matsuyama, I see Sunjae Im, I see Tom Kim, I see Corey Connors, Adam Scott, Mito Pereira, KH Lee from South Korea, Sebastian Munoz from Colombia, Taylor Pendrith from Canada, Cam Davis, Siwoo. My gosh, I mean, this is not. A lot of times you watch the international team, you see the names, and you'll look at the names on the list and you go, who, and then you go, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know every single name on this list of internationals. I'm aware of every single one of these players. I can't pronounce all their names, but I'm aware of them. And that's the first time I've seen an international team list where I've been able to do that and say, okay, well, wait a second here, 20%. I look at the Americans, and I'm like,
I'd rank it higher.
Yeah, I would, because I look at someone like Colin Morikawa has not been playing the greatest as of late. He's been playing okay. Billy Horschel, I mean, I know why he's there. He's a great player, but he's also a team guy. I mean, he's a good player, but he's a good captain's pick. Spieth, he's been hit and miss, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and when that's the thing, when you have these rollover points, right? It's not your points
Well,
are not
that's the
accumulated
thing.
over just the
Yeah.
last year. And I think, you know, and I think we'll talk about format changes and things like that. I think that's something they really need to start considering with these events is this 2-year qualification thing where you're accumulating points built over a 2-year period of time. I don't think they should be doing it. I think you should be qualifying for these teams the year that the event is happening, because they don't pick the teams until then anyway.
Right.
So why do you have to have a 2-year qualification period when you're not actually picking the team until like September anyway?
Yeah, and I think you're right. As far as form is certainly important as far as golf, and what a player looks like 2 years ago versus now can be totally different, 100%. So even if we look at a player like Taylor Prentice, who's kind of the lowest ranked player there, just outside the top 100 in the world, but he's a great captain's pick, because if you look at his play of recently, he's top 5 in a lot of categories. He's been on such a hot streak, and that's what you want. You want players that are on form, not players that earned the points a year and a half ago and are maybe not playing their best right now. So even if they have a history, you look at somebody's reputation, but who knows how they're going to play and how they're going to respond. So I agree with you there. When it comes to things like the captain's pick, they become very important, and they're not just leftovers. In fact, they're the players a lot of times that are, on form. And I wouldn't mind seeing the same thing. I wouldn't mind seeing, we go to just picking from the last year for a certain number. So let's say it's 4 spots on the team and the rest be captain's picks. I think that makes it even more exciting. Yeah.
I mean, we don't always agree on everything, Scott, but I completely 100% agree with that there should be more captain's picks and less guaranteed spots.
Based on 2 years.
Based on 2 years. Yeah. Earn that guaranteed spot. Bottom line. That's what I want.
Now, who are you looking for? I mean, we're mentioning lots of players here. Who do you think are going to be the standout players for the US and the international? And you don't have to have any logic for this. No. You just have to sort of think, I've got a feeling this player is going to play well and perform well for the team.
I think on the US side of it, I think that I would be shocked if Scheffler, Cantley, Schauffele, Tony Finau, I think, is going to be really good in this type of format.
Don't pick them all. Just pick.
No, I know. Okay, I would say my picks for guys that are really going to show. Scheffler and Finau are
okay
on the US are my 2 guys that I think. Now on the international side of it, it's a little tougher, because although I do know the names, their play is not as top in my mind, because a lot of them don't play over here. They play the DP. But I'm really excited to see what Taylor Pendrith does, because his season was so short, but it was so good when he played.
Yeah, and it was only short because he missed that 4.5 in the middle, but he played great at the Players' Championship heading into that break, had the rib injury, and then came back. And as we mentioned, I think it was 5 of 6 events where he was top 15 after that. So you're right. He's got some heat going too.
And I like Sungjae Im. So if I had to pick 2 from there, those would be my 2. Now I could pick a lot more, but those would be my 2. Sungjae Im, and I'm maybe not picking Taylor Pendrith to be dominant in that respect, but I'm really
excited
curious
to
see because of how he's been playing coming into it. That he and the way he earned his spot was on the heels of the format of earning your spot that you and I had discussed or just talked about, in that he was picked because of how he was playing coming into, and momentum and that kind of thing is it plays a huge part. So those are my 2. What about you?
So I'll give you my picks, and then I've got a question for you regarding those players. So I'm going to hopefully I would say keep an eye on Sam Burns. Obviously had a lot of success, a gritty guy. I think he can do some things that are pretty exciting. Cantley's always sneaky, but Cam Young, obviously the dude's been hot. He's played really, really well. He's a rookie going into this, but I'd be very interested to kind of follow him and see what he's going to do. And on the international side, Taylor, I'm with you on that one. But Sebastian Munoz, really good dude. Got to see him up close for 9 good holes here at the RBC Canadian Open last year. Was caddying in the Pro-Am for a player who actually was paired up with him, and he has definitely got some skills that will be useful. And so I'm keeping an eye on them. So here's my question.
Yes, sir.
If you were playing in the President's Cup,
yes, sir,
doesn't matter what side that you're on, I want you to pick one player out of the 24 that you would think you would be a good pairing with. Who would you like to play with for whatever reason? Who would you like to play with as a partner if you had to play with them in every single match for the 22 President's Cup here at Quail Hollow?
Based on what I know of the players,
yeah,
and pardon me if this is going to sound like a Canadian bias thing, but based on what I know about the players, I think that I would pair up very well with Corey Connors.
Okay.
And I'll explain to you why. The reason being is
he plays more golf than you. Okay.
I think everybody plays more golf than I do. The one thing about my game that is, no matter how much golf I play, that is extremely consistent is I'm in play.
Okay.
I'm in play. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that I hit everything perfect, but I'm always in play. I don't make doubles very often because of how I'm hitting the ball. I make doubles right now because of how got a terrible short game. But and Corey Connors is deadly accurate. He's a great ball striker. He hits the ball very straight and has length. He's not Taylor Pendrith long, but he's long. I think that in this type of a format where, you know, it's mostly a best ball thing, and then you get into an alternate shot situation, I think that, you know, and that's only based on how I play and how he plays. Obviously, Corey Connor and I are never going to. Yeah, it's so hypothetical because it is not going to happen. Tell you that right now. I'd love to play with Corey Connors, but I think that the matching, sometimes you try to match up guys like, well, this guy hits it really long, this guy has a great short game, this guy's accurate. You want to pair these two. Maybe there's a reason why Pendrith and Connors are not paired up together right now. As of today, they're not playing together, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to. I think he's playing with Tom Kim. Tom Kim, I think, is his partner today. Connors is, I think. Anyway, that's my I think that would be, because I think you'd be in play all the time. You'd be having birdie putts all the time. And I think that that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but it's not really what I'm going for here.
No.
What about you, Scotty Mac? Who's your partner other than me? Because we know that, you know, the deadly accuracy of the long irons is.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
well, you know, we have had team success, so we'll go with that.
We did.
You know what? I'm thinking Colin Morikawa for me.
Really?
Yeah. You know what?
Pea shooter.
Well, here's the thing. I've got a couple extra yards.
You do have
okay
yards
for that.
You are.
My putting is a little less shaky than his can be sometimes, or whatever. But
I would say that
irons are the weakest part of my game. So
not the weakest part of his game.
Exactly. So I think from a complimentary standpoint, I think we'd have a good time. I don't know if you saw the video where he was talking about, you know, kind of finding the joy in the game and stuff like that. And I think we get along that way. I've never met Colin Morikawa. I've watched him at the 2019 RBC, his PGA Tour debut, and you know, he looked like he was having a great time. So I think that'd just be a good fit. So interesting hypothetical.
Yes. But very interesting hypotheticals.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I think Colin for me. So
okay. So let's wrap up the President's Cup discussion with a quick little discussion of our own, a powwow, if you will, on the most recent question topic regarding the President's Cup that's sort of been put out there, and that was the involvement of women on. I think some people maybe misinterpreted what was being put out there, because some people I think interpreted as though they do the alternate years have a women's team and have a men's team. I don't think that's what they were going for. I think they were going for a mixed. So you have some women from the LPGA on the international side, like
like a 6 and 6.
Yeah. So where do you stand on that? What do you think about that? And then I'll give my 2 cents. And then I want to pose another alternate method to the President's Cup.
I like the idea. I'm not sure if it'll happen because it's the PGA Tour that owns this, not the LPGA Tour. So there's some issues there regarding, revenue and things like that. Obviously, currently, the format with some of their events actually falls in the same year right now. So there's some discussion about logistics with that as far as Solheim Cup conflicting usually the same year. So there are definitely some logistics. Certainly there are some women's competitions already, but would I love to see a mixed event? Yeah, I'd love to see a mixed event. Do I necessarily think it needs to be at the President's Cup? I don't know. It's already got obviously a certain profile so that it would make it helpful and bring more profile to that. Would I like to see it? If we had to snap our fingers and all the logistics are put aside with, revenue sharing, with, competing with other events and things like that, in a utopia world, I would love to see it. I think it would be fun. I think it would be interesting. I think it would add some different elements as far as strategy is concerned, because obviously, there's different skill sets generally within some of the players. Obviously there's a difference in length. There's definitely a greater level of accuracy for players at lower club head speed. That's just fact more than anything. So there's some different elements that sort of come in there that would make it distinguished from other events that are out there. So I think it'd be interesting from that aspect of it. Okay.
So my take on it is this. Would I like to see a mixed event? Yes. Would I like to see it be an alteration of the current format of the President's Cup? No. And my only reason for that is this is not a male-female thing. I think that they're building a history with the President's Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that they need to get the format of the President's Cup right as it is now. Within the confines of the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour and so on, before they look at moving and shifting into a mixed gender.
So you would rather see a separate new competition?
Yeah, I'd rather see a separate new competition. And that's tough. And to me, that's tougher too, because you've already got Ryder Cup and then President's Cup, then Ryder Cup and President's Cup and Ryder Cup. And you got Solheim Cup is every 4 years, isn't it?
Crown International.
Like it's just there's a lot going on, and then you've got the regular tour schedules, and they do need a break and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how they would fit it in, how they would work it in. Now, what I would like to see as an alteration to the President's Cup, and maybe this can happen and maybe this can't happen, but if there's going to be a modification to the event that does not change necessarily the format of the event itself too much, would be to have the winner of the winning Ryder Cup country be the one that plays the international team on those alternate years for the President's Cup.
So you're talking about a try competition.
Yeah, sort of, because the one thing that I think the President's Cup is missing, or that right now the European team plays the United States for the Ryder Cup. That's the history. That's not going to change. The internationals are never going to be involved in that unless they start to open up Europe as, to include Asia and everything. But that's not likely going to happen.
Sure.
The President's Cup was created to give the international team an opportunity to form a team like a Ryder Cup event and play against.
It was also created by the PGA Tour,
right?
Money.
So that is
why
the PGA Tour is why the Americans are the premier team playing against the internationals. But the European team now doesn't have the opportunity to play the international team, and that would be kind of cool in a way to see a European team play the international team. I don't know how. Again, maybe that's another event, but it's then you're talking about another event. You want to do a mixed event. You want to do this. I just think it would be cool to see a European team play against an international team. You know, I don't know. I don't know how that would look and how it would work in a minute. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall here, and we're not even expecting it to stick. Yep. So, but we're just talking. We're powwowing.
It's just like Twitter. Everybody just throwing stuff out.
Exactly.
There.
Exactly. So,
whatever the case, you know what? I'll be watching some of it today. I'll be watching some of it over the weekend. Curious to see how it is. It's great to see some of the top players in the world compete, even if there are some other ones that are maybe not there and competing, and that's a whole other topic. But you know what? It's going to be fun viewing. And, you know, if anybody's got some other thoughts on the President's Cup, you know, players, ideas, formats, you can always drop a comment here on the YouTube, or, you know, send us a message on, Instagram, Twitter, whatever the case may be.
Exactly. Okay. Well, we do have a product watch to get to. I'm just wondering if we should pop a quick break and then come back with that, or maybe we should power through here. What do you think, Scott?
All right. Well, why don't we get to it pretty quickly? The product watch is not going to be too deep this week, but we just got a neat product, especially with people, you know, kind of getting into some different things. But maybe
Product Watch. Product Watch is brought to you by Greensmere Golf and Country Club, as always. 2 great championship 18-hole golf courses to choose from, Premier and Legacy. You're looking to play some golf this fall. Another great golf course for fall golf. Visit greensmere.com and book your tee times there. Okay.
100%.
All right, Product Watch, Scott. Putter ruler. What the heck is a putter ruler?
Well, you know what? A lot of people are going to be working on their short games, especially putting indoors as we head into the winter season. And you know what? I traditionally make use of a ruler as far as rolling a golf ball on it to get players to kind of work on their start line and do different things. Gareth Rafleski, who many people might be familiar with, who works with about at least 60 players on the LPGA Tour, including Paula Rito, who won the CP Women's Open, a lot of other #1 players. He's got a series of training aids, and one of them is his putting ruler. So it's a modified version of a standard yardstick. And basically, it's got some extra elements to it. It's got a standard yardstick sort of on one side. You flip it over, and then it's got colored sections on the other side. So it makes it easier to work on your tempo as far as, you know, basically getting the length of your stroke back and forth and getting it more even. Allows you to calibrate by, you know, setting up on a green, you know, getting ready to play around, kind of see where that same length stroke, what type of distance it creates. So again, you kind of get a feel for it, work on your alignment, really let you work in your start line. You just put the golf ball on top of the ruler and then roll it down that and see if you can keep the face square enough so that you can send the ball down the first 3 feet, which is, you know, how long this ruler is. And if you can do that, you can control your start line better. And, you know, as opposed to a traditional yardstick that you might buy that might be metal, this is a little wider, so it has a little bit more forgiveness. It's very difficult to use some of the other ones. So really help you out with your speed control, that start line. Sells for about $40. You know, really cool stuff. You can think Catalyst Golf is the website where it gets sold through. But Gareth Rafleski's putting ruler, cool little tool that you can make use of indoors or outdoors, and something you want to look at to work on your putting this winter, or, you know, during the season as well.
Cool. We got this up on flagstick.com yet? Yeah.
Cool. I don't know how to have it up there yet, but I will certainly will.
Well, it will be. In the meantime, catalystgolf.com is where you can find it to purchase it. And if you give us a couple of days, we'll have it up there on flagstick.com for you to read more about it if you want to check it out there. Putting ruler. I like it. Looks cool.
It is cool. I've seen it in use a lot. So
I'm an outstanding putter, so I know to work on putting. No.
Yeah. Okay. You go with that.
No.
All right. Great show, Jeff.
Yes.
Great show,
Scott. Awesome show. Love the President's Cup talk. Next week, hopefully, maybe we get a chance to chit chat about your trip a little bit more.
We'll 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks.
I'll be away
yeah.
next
So that's
week,
right too. So, ladies and gentlemen, Scott is gone out west next week. So he'll be gathering some data.
I will
to share with us on the following week on the podcast. So you can listen to some old podcasts and then come back and listen to a fresh one in a couple of weeks. So there you go.
Perfect.
Thank you to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Golf Sim Gurus, Greensmere Golf and Country Club, Kevin Haime Golf School, and our presenting sponsor this week, Ping Golf Canada. If you are looking to improve your game, you need to check out the entire family of Ping G425 drivers, fairway woods, hybrids, and irons at ca.ping.com. Thanks again for everybody for listening, downloading the podcast, watching us on YouTube. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks, as always, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us, click the notification bell, make sure you get every single episode as soon as it drops because you don't want to miss anything.
And subscribe to that YouTube channel.
Please subscribe to that YouTube channel. Get over to flagstick.com for even more great content published every single day. As always, we appreciate you tuning in to us. I am Jeff Botter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stick.